Assalamu alaikum. I am Amina Haider, lecturer, Institute of Business Studies. I am here with the course of Introduction to Business. This is lecture number 19, and today's topic is share capital. Let's move towards the topic that we are going to study today. Here is an overview of the topics that we are going to cover in our today's lecture. We will discuss what is share capital. We will discuss about types of share capital that includes authorized, shared, registered or nominal capital, issued capital, unissued capital, subscribed capital, unsubscribed capital, called up capital, uncalled up capital, paid up capital, and we will discuss classes of share capital that includes equity share capital and preferred share capital. So moving towards our very first topic, which is what is share capital? The sum total of nominal value of shares of a company is known as its share capital. So we will understand this definition in very simple words. So share capital is the total contribution made by people to the company. Is actually the share is actually the proportion of the capital to which each member has entitlement. We need to remember that a share is actually not an amount of money. It is an interest including different rights in the contract. So share capital refers to the funds that a company raises from selling a certain type of shares to its investors. For example, if you want to sell 1,000 share at rupees 15 per share, that would actually raises 15,000 of share capital. Since we all know that a joint stock company is the big form of business organization, the amount required by the company for its business activity is raised by the issuance of shares. So the amount so raised is called share capital. And the person who buy the shares of a company are called shareholders. Now moving towards our next topic, which is types of share capital. Authorized capital. So the very first type is authorized capital. Authorized capital or nominal capital means such capital as is authorized by the memorandum of a company to be the maximum amount of share capital of the company. So authorized capital, we can also call it registered capital and we can call it nominal capital. So this is the maximum amount of capital which a company can issue. It is called authorized capital because the company has the authority to issue that much capital. We also call it registered capital because it is the maximum amount limit of the capital to be issued is fixed at the time of registration of the company. The authorized capital of the company is mentioned in the capital clause of Memorandum of Association. Uh, and this we discussed this essential book in our essential documents topics. And in the Memorandum of Association, there is a capital clause with which the company is registered once it is approved. While deciding about the authorized capital, the present and the future needs of the company are carefully worked out. However, if at any stage company wants to issue more capital than authorized, it will have to bring a change, it will have to alter capital clause in its memorandum of association. And this bringing change in the capital clause of memorandum of association, that requires a lot of formalities. And we said, like, we also call it nominal capital. This is set out in the memorandum of association, which the company has power to issue. A company in no case can issue more capital than authorized by its memorandum of association. So, in simple words, the authorized capital is the maximum amount of capital which the company is authorized to raise by the way of public subscription. Issued capital. Issued capital means such capital as the company issue from time to time for subscription. So it is that part of authorized capital or nominal capital which is actually issued by the company for public subscription. A joint stock company may not issue the entire authorized capital at once. It goes on raising the capital as and when the need for additional funds is felt. The difference between the nominal and issued capital is unissued capital, which can be issued to the public at a later stage. When the whole of authorized capital is offered to the public, the authorized and issued capital will be same. And it is also be noted that the issued capital cannot be more than the authorized capital. Issued capital includes the share allotted to the public, allotted to the vendors, etc. Then we have unissued capital. So it is that part of the capital that part of authorized share capital which is not issued yet for the subscription. So, unissued capital is the amount in a company that have been authorized for use but which have never been issued. These shares cannot be used to cast votes in shareholder election, nor they are entitled to receive the dividends. So the number of unissued share is generally irrelevant to current shareholders. For example, we would understand it like if the authorized capital of the company is rupees 10 lakhs and the company issue shares valuing 7 lakhs, then the issued capital is 7 lakh and unissued capital is that of 3 lakhs. Subscribed capital. Subscribed capital means such part of the capital which is for the time being subscribed by the members of a company. So, subscribed capital represents that portion of the authorized capital that potential shareholders have agreed to purchase from the company, often as a part of company's initial public offering. So the amount of issued capital only indicates the amount open for public subscription. Subscribed capital depicts the share capital taken up by the public. It is that part of issued capital for which applications for subscription have been received from the general public. Sometimes if company is in a better position, then more and more people will be interested in buying shares, and in this case oversubscription will be the result. But when a company receives applications for shares more than the number of shares it has offered to the general public, it is known as oversubscription of shares. But if the company's financial position is not sound or is not good, it may be possible that the subscription are received for lesser than intended shares, in which case there will be under subscription. Called up capital. Called up capital means such part of the capital which has been called for payment. Companies don't ask for full amount of shares to be paid at once. They often call for partial payment during allotment. The amount of shares companies call for as partial payment is what is referred to as called up share capital. Companies issues shares in this manner to sell their shares to potential shareholders on relaxed terms. which can potentially raise the sum of equity obtainable by a business. If a company receives full payment for called up capitals from its shareholders, then the called up capital and the paid up capital will be equal. In addition to that, we will discuss uncalled up capital. It is the uncalled portion of the allotted capital and represent contingent contingent liability of the shareholders on the shares. So the uncalled capital is the unpaid portion of the subscribed capital. Uh, in other words, we can say that it is the remainder of the issued capital which has not been called. But the company may call this amount at any time that must be subject to the terms of issuance of shares. Paid up capital. Paid up share capital or share capital paid up means such aggregate amount of money credited as paid up as is equivalent to the amount received as paid up in respect of shares issued. And also includes any amount credited as paid up in respect of shares of the company but does not include any other amount received in respect of such shares by whatever name called. Although this definition is a bit complicated, but we will try to understand this term in a simple words. In simple words, the paid up capital is the amount actually paid by the shareholders. Paid up capital is the part of called up capital actually paid or actually credited by the shareholder on the issued shares. Paid up capital represents the money that the company has not borrowed. Also, it is the total amount of money that the company receives from shareholders in exchange for shares of stock. By reserve capital, we mean that amount which is not callable by the company except in the event of company being wound up. So reserve capital is defined as part of subscribed uncalled capital which will not be called up until and unless the company goes into liquidation. In simple words, it is the portion of the share capital that is reserved by the company and which will be utilized only of the happening of said event. You need to pass special resolution for determining that the specified portion of the company's share capital will not be called up except when the company is about to wind up. And it is also a point to be noted that it is not compulsory for the companies to create reserve capital. Let's understand these terms through an example. The public subscribes for 10,000 shares of a company of rupees 100 each. The company calls up rupees 50 per share but receives the payment only from 9,000 subscribers. In this, you have to calculate the subscribed capital, the called up capital, and the paid up capital. So, since the subscription is for 10,000 shares at rupees 100 per share, the subscribed capital is that of rupees 1 lakh. Further, the company calls up rupees 50 per share. Hence, the called up capital is 50,000. That actually means that the uncalled capital is also of rupees 50,000. However, only 9,000 subscriber paid. This means that 1,000 subscribers were defaulter. Hence, the area would that be of rupees 5,000. Therefore, the paid up capital is 45,000 rupees. So that is how you calculate the subscribed capital, the paid up capital, and the called up capital. Now we would discuss classes of share capital. We would be discussing two classes of share capital. One is equity share capital and the other is preferred share capital. So moving towards the equity share capital. The share capital which are carrying voting rights, rights to dividend and ownership known as equity shares. Equity share has all rights on the balance of profit after payment of interest and preference dividend. So every business need to have some capital. So The business often raise money from the investors, but these investors don't simply hand over the money out of their goodness of their hearts. They agree to give sometimes hundreds and thousands of money in exchange for equity in the company, which means a share in the company's ownership. So, a business capital structure generally has both equity and debts. That is the amount of capital that has to be repaid. Equity, on the other hand, does not have to be repaid. It is the amount of money that investor put into company in return for a share of the company's ownership. When the business makes money, some of the profit is then distributed to those shareholders as a return on their investment. We can also call equity shareholders as common shareholders as well. So, common stock is a security that represent ownership in a corporation. Holders of common stock elect the board of directors and they vote on corporate policies. However, at the time of liquidation, common shareholders have right to a company asset only after bondholder, preferred shareholders, and other debt holders are paid in full. So in case of liquidation, common stockholders receives whatever asset remains after creditors, bondholders and preferred stockholders are paid. This makes common stock a bit riskier than the debts or preferred shareholders. Common shares are issued to business owners and other investors as a proof of the money they have paid into the company. A piece of stock represents a portion of ownership of the company. That means when you hold a portion of the company's total stock, you are one of the owners of the company. As a common stockholder of a company enlisted in the stock market, you have the capability of casting the vote while selecting uh, the the board of directors. This privilege give you the right to select the most efficient person for the company. The value of common stock is not concrete. That means the value fluctuate from time to time. There is uncertainty um, in the return of stock investment. This is because this value is dependent on many factors such as companies' earning, taxes, industry factors, or many macroeconomic factors. We will discuss the other part of classes of share capital, that is, we will discuss the preferred share capital in our upcoming lectures. That's it for today. This is the reference book for today's lecture. Thank you.